The first images of the moon's far side created a problem nobody expected. Not because the pictures were unclear, not because the technology failed, but because the moment humanity finally saw what had been permanently hidden from Earth, two global superpowers immediately began fighting over something far more dangerous than territory.
The terrain was identical, yet the name
They started fighting over reality itself.
a stark
In 1959, the Soviet Union launched Luna 3 mission and changed astronomy forever. For the first time in human history, cameras captured the half of the moon no human being had ever seen. Entire mountain chains, massive impact basins, craters stretching across a landscape that had remained invisible for billions of years. And within months, Soviet scientists began naming all of it.
the independent mapping
That was where the real problem started.
before stabilization.
At first, the system looked perfectly stable. Scientific discovery had followed a familiar pattern for centuries. You find something new, you document it, the international scientific community verifies it, then eventually, formal naming conventions turn discovery into accepted knowledge. That process had worked for planets, stars, asteroids, and constellations. But suddenly, Cold War politics entered the map. Soviet astronomers published official lunar atlases assigning names across the moon's hidden hemisphere. Familiar ideological figures appeared immediately: Soviet scientists, communist cultural icons, national heroes carefully embedded onto the lunar surface itself. And on paper, the map looked legitimate. But there was one fragile dependency nobody had prepared for. Discovery meant nothing unless everyone agreed what they were looking at. Across the Atlantic, American scientists saw the danger immediately. Because if the Soviet Union controlled lunar naming rights, they controlled how future generations understood the moon itself. Every crater, every basin, every geological feature would permanently reinforce Soviet historical legacy. The first farside map was no longer scientific documentation. It had become geopolitical territory. Suddenly, astronomy faced a problem far larger than lunar photography. The map itself had become unstable. And that changed everything about how scientific discovery functioned. The visual evidence had not changed. The moon stayed exactly the same. But now two competing realities began forming around identical terrain. One crater, two names. One landscape, two political systems trying to define what officially existed. Then the United States quietly began preparing alternative naming proposals. And now the same lunar surface existed in duplicate. Picture those Cold War-era maps sitting side by side. The exact same crater formations. The exact same mountains. Completely different names. The scientific world had entered dangerous territory. Because astronomy depends on something most people never think about: shared agreement. Without standardized naming systems, scientific communication starts breaking apart immediately. Researchers publishing data could no longer guarantee everyone was referring to the same feature. Geological comparisons became unreliable. Orbital calculations referencing surface landmarks could become inconsistent across national boundaries. The moon had not changed. The map had, and suddenly observation itself stopped being enough. That forced the intervention of International Astronomical Union, the organization responsible for keeping scientific naming systems consistent worldwide. But the IAU now faced a crisis it had never encountered before. Its authority depended entirely on voluntary cooperation. It had no military power, no enforcement mechanism, no ability to stop either superpower from publishing independent maps. For the first time, the global scientific system discovered something terrifying. Truth depended on political cooperation, not observation. At the midpoint of the Cold War, astronomy itself had quietly become vulnerable infrastructure, and the moon exposed the weakness. Inside international committee meetings, diplomatic pressure escalated for years. Soviet delegates defended priority rights, arguing that Luna 3 had made the discovery first. American scientists pushed back, warning that unilateral naming created permanent ideological contamination inside scientific archives. Again, the maps returned. Same surface. Different realities. Every new proposal revealed the same dangerous dependency. Science was never purely objective. It required trust between competing institutions. And trust was evaporating fast. Eventually, compromise became unavoidable. The International Astronomical Union created strict modern naming protocols designed specifically to prevent another lunar naming war from happening again. Formal review systems, international oversight committees, shared approval mechanisms controlling how future discoveries would enter official scientific reality. The system still governs astronomy today. Every newly discovered crater, asteroid, exoplanet, and planetary feature follows rules born directly from this Cold War conflict. But here's the part most people miss. Luna 3 did more than photograph the moon. It exposed a structural flaw buried inside science itself. Observation alone does not determine reality. Agreement does. Those competing lunar maps were never just arguments over names. They were proof that discovery means absolutely nothing if the world cannot agree what discovery officially becomes. The moon stayed exactly where it was. Human trust was the unstable part. And sometimes, the map matters more than the world itself.